Right, today we have more evidence we're going to see the 15-inch MacBook Air launch in just a few weeks, so let's delve into it. So according to a research note by Morgan Stanley, Apple's supplier Quanta Computer, who of course assembles all of Apple's laptops, will have single-digit percentage growth in Q2 of this year, and partly why this is going to be the case is because the 15-inch MacBook Air is releasing. And while we've also heard about production ramping up for this pretty recently, so yes, we can be somewhat sure we're going to see this launch in June at WWDC. But I'll be honest, the excitement I had for this Mac has kind of worn off a little. Now don't get me wrong guys, I'm still looking forward to the form factor because, as I've said in many videos, I want a MacBook with a display similar in size to the 16-inch MacBook Pro, but of course without the additional power and cost, and considering Apple's base level chips are more than fine for my use, I can save a ton of money going with the 15-inch, and so yes, I was definitely considering this. However, remember that initial rumours did point towards the M3 coming in this, which was the main aspect I was looking forward to, because M2 was of course a minor upgrade over M1, mainly because it was still based on the same 5nm process, but M3 would have been a big upgrade because of its 3nm process, which should massively improve both the performance and the efficiency of the machine. And I was especially looking forward to the efficiency because the 15-inch Air with M2 could already offer nearly 24 hours of endurance, but M3 could take things even further, as we've heard reports claiming TSMC's 3nm chips could reduce power consumption by a whopping 40%. However, unfortunately, there have been recent reports that TSMC is struggling to produce 3nm chips, with the yield rate for these being too low, so as a result, Apple and TSMC are going to prioritize the iPhone and allocate 3nm chips for A17 production, and the M3 Macs are going to be pushed back. And I don't blame Apple for doing this because obviously the iPhone sells in way bigger numbers than these regular MacBooks. And by the way, would like to remind you guys, like this video and subscribe for more content like this, it would be appreciated. So the question now is, when are we going to see M3 launch? Well, apparently volume production is so low for these chips that we won't see M3 iPads and Macs released till 2024, so the 13-inch MacBook Air Pro update we heard about pretty recently is now likely to launch at next year's spring event. And so it makes sense why Apple's going ahead with the 15-inch release now, because they just had a horrible quarter Macs-wise with a 40% year-over-year drop in sales, and so any new release will give them a spike in sales, and this is quite an easy model for them to produce because it's now literally a larger 13-inch with the exact same SoC they've been producing for months. And because it's not offering anything new performance-wise, I'm considering skipping this model for now, but of course, I do still think this will be popular amongst regular consumers who just want a larger regular MacBook, and those who have yet to experience Apple Silicon. However, someone with an M1 MacBook Air, I do want a bigger performance upgrade, and so I think I might just wait for M3, but there is always a chance I get impatient and get one of these instead. Also, Apple, if you're not giving us any performance upgrades, please, at the very least, give us a new color option. Considering the 15-inch is basically equivalent to the mid-year color refresh Apple does with iPhones, they might as well give us a new color for this MacBook, and I'm very sure that would create additional hype because, trust me guys, a lot of consumers, including myself, care way too much about colors. Now, what kind of colors should Apple give us with this MacBook? Well, we've been waiting for a proper black MacBook for years. We used to have this back in 2008, and even today those Macs look incredible, so it would be nice if the 15-inch Air also got this. But alternatively, I would not mind fun colors like we see on the iMac. In fact, you might remember this, but the renders we saw for the M2 MacBook Air before launch had fun colors, but Apple surprised us with the midnight color option instead. And so yeah, considering this is the base level MacBook, it would be nice if we saw at least one fun color that would be a callback to the old iBooks Apple used to sell. Anyways, let's delve into your comments. So Matthew Maneri says, I was beginning to consider the 15-inch with 512 gigs of storage and 16 gigs of RAM, but only if it has the M3, which is projected to be more powerful than the binned M2 Pro, which is exactly the amount I want, plus amazing battery life. But if it's M2, I might as well wait for the M3 Pro, Really wish OLED was on the Pros, which would eliminate the picture degradation when viewing even slightly off axis, which I hate almost as much as the principle of the notch lol. Would be nice if 1TB was standard with the M3 Pro. The spec comparison and screen comparisons, aka the notch, with similar priced Windows machines are becoming embarrassing. I know Mac M chips are powerful and efficient, but an SSD is an SSD, so Apple should give us 1TB storage as standard. So breaking this down, first of all, I'm in the same boat. Regarding the 15-inch MacBook Air, I was also considering the 16GB and 512GB variant, but if it's M2, I'm a little more hesitant in buying this immediately because we know M3 is going to be a big upgrade, and so I guess when the machine arrives, I need to decide if I want the bigger display right now, or if I'm willing to wait for the M3. Now coming to OLEDs, I'll be honest guys, I'm not too annoyed we don't have this yet. I don't even have a mini LED MacBook, and so for my use the regular LCDs are still solid. But yes, I can understand why people want this, and I believe the last we heard about this was it coming in 2025 alongside touch support, coming to Mac for the first time. Not sure how I feel about this, but I'm assuming macOS is going to be better optimized for touch in the coming years. Now regarding 1TB being standard on the M3 Pro MacBook, yes of course everyone would appreciate this, but I don't see Apple doing this for a while. They simply make too much money off storage, and if I'm being honest, I don't mind 512GB of base storage, but 256GB on the entry-level models is absolutely ridiculous. Unless you can make do with external storage or mostly rely on cloud storage, 256GB of storage is way too little for most, and so Apple should fix that first. And with your last point regarding spec comparisons with other Windows laptops on the market, yes, in some aspects, MacBooks do pale in comparison, but because of my love for macOS and my strong hatred for Windows, I will buy a MacBook any day, and I think many think like this. It's the same thing with iPhones. Yes, Android phones are better in some aspects, and I love using Android phones as secondary devices, but ultimately for my main device, I prefer iOS, and so I'm likely going to keep using iPhones. The ecosystem is really strong and keeps you locked within the garden. So Jay Smoothie says, if I decide to get a MacBook, it would be a Pro. 14-inch would be comfortable, but a 16-inch would check all the boxes. If M3 does come to the Air, that would be great. For the average consumer, let's see what Apple does. And fair enough, I think for a lot of techies, you will still prefer the Pro because the Air has 60Hz, which I know puts many off, but you also get mini LED and of course, more powerful internals. However, if I'm being frank guys, I can gladly live without these features for a lower price, and so I'm very much interested in this 15-inch. And I know some might say the 16-inch M1 Pro has dropped in price, which is true, but I would be willing to go with the 15-inch if it does get M3. If it sticks to M2, however, I definitely would consider the 16-inch as my next MacBook, so let's see what Apple does. Anyways, thank you for watching guys, make sure to like and subscribe for more content like this, and thank you for watching.